What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Fishing the Lone Star. My name is Jeremy, and today's topic is one that I've been wanting to review for a while now, and I'm finally getting around to it. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe because your subscription helps us grow. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much. Your subscription to the channel means a lot. All right, let's dive in to this topic of how do you get started with bass fishing. Now, I got started about 3 years ago, and from there, as you can see behind me, it's kind of escalated a little bit. Okay, it's escalated a lot. This was literally my very first rod and reel and still used to this day. So we're going to talk about the equipment that you need, literally the rod, the reel, the line, the bait, the tackle, what to go purchase to get started. Make sure you're buying the right things instead of wasting money on the wrong things or things that you may not use right away. And then also talk about how to use some of these particular baits and lures that I'm going to suggest you go purchase to get started. All these things are what I used as well when I first started. So I'm going to give you all the descriptions, all the information, in hopes that you can go out and get started bass fishing, especially during these crazy times, which is COVID-19 right now, which is why I also thought this is a great time to roll out this video because many people are wanting to get outside, maybe start fishing, or maybe even start fishing with your kids and getting them started. All right, so let's dive in. First of all, as I mentioned, this was my first rod and reel, and since then I now have purchased 2 or 3 more spinning reels. That's what this is called, as a spinning reel, because as you can see, it spins this way as you reel it. I've also gone out and purchased 7 or 8 bait casters or bait casting reels, which looks like this. And this was another beginner bait caster that I purchased and I'm still using to this day. Although it's not one of my main go-tos, I'm still using it. So let's set aside the bait caster for a minute though and talk about rod and reel selection. All right, so let's start with the reel. As I mentioned, the spinning reel. This is what you're gonna wanna purchase to start off with. This particular reel is the Silver Max by Abu Garcia. I believe it's $30 is how much the reel costs. You'll see that it's rigged up for right-handed. So let me hold it this way. It's a right-handed reel. However, you can unscrew this knob on the side and take out the handle and flip it. And then it can be a left-handed reel if you prefer. So that's the beauty of a spinning reel, is almost all of them can be ambidextrous. You can switch the actual reel to the left side or the right side. So what size of reel though? Size of reel actually is the thing. So you'll see often sometimes the reels say 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. Or in this particular case, a 20, a 30, a 40. I personally would recommend you start off with a 20 size or a 30 size reel. What that speaks to is the diameter of the spool. So this is a size 20. It served me really well. I would highly advise, again, starting with a 20 or a 30. So this is the Silver Max by Abu Garcia, size 20 reel. And you'll know because it usually says somewhere on the bottom or the spool size or on the packaging, if you're buying it, will say what size of spool that it is. All right. Next is the rod. Okay. Now this rod, I believe was like $40 or $50. I got it from Academy Sports. It's the H2O Express brand. So it's a store brand rod, Academy store brand. It's a 6'8". I would recommend somewhere between a 6'8" to a 6'10" in a spinning rod. You don't need something really any extremely long, like a 7 foot or 7'3", etc. So a 6'8" to 6'10", somewhere in there is good. I would not go lower or shorter than 6'8" to start off with. Again, you can use this rod for further application, which is why I'm recommending you start with this because it's something you can still continue to use. But a 6'8" in terms of length. Now let's talk about the strength of the rod. This is a medium, which means it's the bend, if I could show you, is a medium bend. It's not heavy, medium heavy. It's more of a medium rod. So a medium 6'8" and a fast action. Action tells you how much it bends at the tip. Fast bends at the very tip. Medium bends somewhere in the middle of the rod. moderate bends somewhere at the middle of the rod. So you want to get a 6/8 medium fast rod. If you can find one, that's what I'd recommend. All right. For starters, that's going to do you really well. That's the rod, that's the reel. Let's talk now about the line. Now, this is where you're probably going to have a ton of people arguing or commenting below, saying different lines, different rods, different reels. I'm just giving you a general overview of what to use to get started that is going to serve you well. And you're going to be able to throw all three of the baits and lures I'm about to tell you next with this type of line. So first of all, there's three types of lines. There's braid, monofilament, and fluorocarbon. Okay, and I'm going to say it the other way around. There's braid, which is more of like a rope style. I've got all three types of line here. There's braid, which is more like a thicker, almost like a small rope. Okay, you're going to want braid for really heavy, thick stuff, thick cover. Probably not something you're beginning with. So braid is not what you're going to want to purchase to begin with, unless you're just wanting to buy multiple rods and multiple reels, and sure, try one with braid. I would not go with braid for beginners. Fluorocarbon, this is 20-pound fluorocarbon, is a line that does not float, it sinks. It can be used for many things, but is not what I'd recommend to begin with, and I'll tell you why, which leaves monofilament. Let me turn it this way. This is a trilene. This is also a 14-pound, which I believe is a good pound. 12 to 14 is a good to start with, but a 14-pound trilene monofilament. Doesn't really matter if you use trilene or not. This is what I have. But monofilament is what you want to use because the line floats. It's pretty durable, and you can pretty much use it on almost anything, or at least the three things that I'm about to tell you that you should go purchase to start bass fishing with. All right, so monofilament. And let me tell you why before you comment below and tell me I'm wrong if you're watching this. Okay, now remember, I said monofilament, and here's why. I'm going to talk about three different presentations and three different baits and lures to go purchase or considering purchasing to get you started. And the reason why I'm talking about three is because I'm going to break down the water column, or the depth of the water, in three categories: top water, the middle of the water column, and the bottom of the water column. And if you can focus on those three things and break down any body of water you go to, whether you're bank fishing on a lake or bank fishing in a pond, or if you have a kayak or a boat and you're out in the water, you want to think top water, middle of the water, bottom of the water column. Usually you're going to find your fish somewhere in there, depending upon the time of year, the time of day, etc. That's a whole nother video. All right, top water first. One thing you're gonna want to go by is a form of a walking bait and or a popper. Okay, both of these are extremely easy to fish with, although the walking bait is a little harder, and I'll tell you why. But the popper is a great bait to start off with as a beginner. This actual lure is what I caught my very first personal best fish on, which was 5 pounds 4 ounces. And I say first because my PB now is 8 pounds. But the popper, as you can see here, is a cupped mouth. It's going to chug along the top of the water as you pull it. So you're basically going to be twitching it with your rod, not with your reel, but with your rod. You're going to twitch it and then reel in the slack and twitch it and reel in the slack. But it's going to chug across the top of the water, making splashes. This will also sometimes walk side to side, but mainly is going to chug and spit water. You want to sometimes pause it and kill it, and when it does that, that tail is going to sink. Those feathers are going to kind of sit there and kind of wobble in the water, and you're going to draw a lot of strikes and a lot of fish. The only negative about this bait is there's double trebles. Not double trouble, but double trebles, which can equal double trouble if you're throwing it around trees, if you're throwing it around heavy vegetation. You do not want to throw this bait. You want to throw this more in open water. I would also target bank lines. So if you have a round body of water, I would target the line around it. I would target the bank line. So if this is your bank and you're fishing this way, I would throw here and pull parallel to the bank, because that's where a lot of your big fish are going to be hiding. All right, now the walking bait. So again, this is a popper, this is a walking bait, and here's another one. So this is a Hedon Spook Junior. I forget what this one's called, but this is just a walking bait by Academy Sports. the H2O Express brand. You'll notice that one of them has a kind of a cupped mouth. This one does not, but both of these, what these are meant to do is as you twitch them and pull them, they're meant to just walk side to side. Now that's going to imitate bait fish. As you can tell, it looks like a big minnow. And as it chugs side to side, I'll do it this way. As it chugs side to side, you can work it fast, or you can pause it and stop, pause it and stop. I have found though with this particular bait that a steady side to side movement works best. And as you can hear, there's a faint rattle to it. So for topwater, I would buy one or the other, but get a walking bait or a popper. Popper's probably a little bit easier for beginners. That's gonna be a great topwater bait to get started with. All right, let's talk middle of the water column and the bait selection number 2. The bait selection number 2 that I'm going to advise is going to be a paddle tail swim bait of some sort of form or variety. And I'll show you a couple of popular ones. This is one that I like by Egg Zone Lures. This is a bigger version, but this is the Swammer. It's a paddle tail swim bait. You can see the jointed body. I really like this particular swim bait. But another popular one, the Rage Swimmer. This is a 3.75. They also make a 3.25. Your goal here is to mimic bait fish. So something like this, or this little paddle tail swim bait, just the plastic is by Big Bite Baits. That is the Cane Thumper, and I really like that one as well. You can see this one is more narrow than that one, and this one's somewhere in the middle. So a couple of different options for you, but Big Bite Baits, Cane Thumper, Rage Swimmer, or the Egg Zone Swammer is something I would buy. Now let's talk about how you're gonna rig those up. This is called an underspin. So basically it is going to swim this way in the water. That tail is going to wiggle, if you will, or swim behind. And then this little blade that is under it is going to spin as you're pulling this through the water. If you're fishing around a lot of open water, which means you don't have a whole lot of grass vegetation or like underwater tree limbs, then this is good to use. If you do have a lot of tree limbs or underwater sticks and stumps, this is not good to use because that hook is exposed. There's nothing preventing that hook from getting stuck. So instead, find you something like this, which is a wide gap hook with a screw lock, and you're gonna screw that into your swim bait and then rig this weedless. And this will allow you to fish it around lots of cover, structure, etc. without getting hung up a lot. So I'm gonna screw it in and show you. So you're basically just gonna take this, you're gonna screw it right. You're gonna take that screw it right into the head of that swim bait, just like so. Make sure I did it right, okay? You're gonna screw it in, just like that, okay? You're gonna kind of measure where that hook is gonna go in. Put your thumb right there, bend the lure, or the plastic, sorry, push the hook through the top, out the back, and you've got a presentation that looks like this. Now, to make it even more weedless, take your plastic, pull it forward, and bury that hook tip right in the top of the plastic. And there is your weedless swim bait. This is going to catch you a lot of fish in this way or in this way. They also make versions of this that have the willow blade that comes off the back, so it's an underspin that's weedless. So you can buy those as well, but this alone will catch you a lot of fish, and you can throw it around grass, lily pads, whatever you like to from the bank. So paddle tail swim bait is your second option to go buy. All right, third and final selection that I would tell you to go purchase if you're just getting started fishing and bass fishing and likely fishing a lot of ponds is a worm or a crawl, and you're gonna wanna Texas rig it, okay? Now let me show you what that means. Let me show you the bait selections. I'll give you a couple of different options and you can choose which one works best for you. All right, let's talk about throwing a worm or a crawl Texas rigged. Here's gonna be 3 choices I would recommend. Let's talk about each one really quick. First one is a Senko or a stick bait. Now, this particular one is a Yumdinger. It is a 5-inch, what's called a Senko or a stick bait. And this bait is gonna catch you a lot of fish, and it's super, super easy to fish with, Okay, now there's two different types of hooks that you can use. Same thing for this worm and same thing for this crawl, the type of hooks. I'll kind of talk about the two different types and then we'll come back and show you how to rig these. Okay, the two different types of hooks are a round bend worm hook or an EWG hook. And EWG means extra wide gap. See how that gap in the hook is wider than this one? Extra wide gap is what that means. Now these are both a 3/0 or 3/0 3/0 hook. That's the size I would tell you to probably go purchase. It's probably gonna fit most of your applications. You can then upgrade to a 4/0, 5/0, 6/0, 7/0, or you can downgrade to a 2/0, 1/0, etc. 3/0 just happens to be a good hook size for most of your presentations. So let's talk first about the Senko and how you're gonna rig this. This is called Texas rigging. I'm gonna do it quickly. There's more videos that I'll direct you to at the end of this that you can go watch more thoroughly. But ultimately, see how long that is in the bend of that, the straight portion of that hook. That's how far you're gonna wanna stick that hook straight into the worm, straight down the middle, just like that, okay? Straight down the middle, just like that, okay? Next, you're gonna take it and push the hook out, like so. Push that worm all the way up, and this is called the shank, the top of your hook. Push it all the way up. Now, when you get to the top, you're gonna take your hand and turn it and twist that hook while you're holding the worm, and it'll twist right up the top, just like so. And you can push it up a little bit more so the bend sticks out. Now, you'll notice your worm is hanging down, not hooked yet. Find where it's gonna go in. I'll turn it this way. Find where that worm is gonna go in. You're kind of measuring, so measure with your thumb. And just like you do in that swim bait, you're gonna measure with your thumb and your finger. Bend that worm. Trying to show you the best way. Put it straight in, out the top, and then pull your worm out like so, like that. And then just to make sure that it's perfect, take your thumb and forefinger, push that worm forward and bury the hook tip into the worm like so. See how that hook tip is buried? That keeps it weedless, but when fish bite down, see how they're biting down? That hook tip is gonna pop right out and hook them right in the mouth, okay? That's Texas rigging and how you're gonna throw your worm on an EWG 3/0 hook. Let me take it off and I'll show you again how to do this on a crawl. A crawl, this is a watermelon red flake. It's a great color. I would also recommend, this is like a green pumpkin blue swirl. I would recommend just green pumpkin in your worm and like a watermelon red flake in your crawl, or mix up those colors. Those are two great colors that you can't go wrong. Green pumpkin, watermelon, red flake. If your water's really dirty, then you want to go with blacks and blues. If your water's more clean and clear, or maybe a foot or two visibility, meaning you can see a foot or two into the water, or maybe 2 or 3 feet, then I would go with a green pumpkin or watermelon red flake. So gonna do the same thing. Take your EWG 3/0 wide gap hook, stick it in until you get to the bend, pop it out the bottom, push it all the way down, get to the top, spin your hook so the crawl pops up, okay? Measure how far down, put your thumb and forefinger there, bend the crawl, push the hook up and out through the top like so, push it up, push it forward, and bury that hook tip in, and there you have it, is your weedless crawl that you can throw, all right, like so. The last part that I want to show you is a little curly tail worm. Now this is about a 6.5 inch, so maybe not that little. This is actually a tournament series worm by Bass Pro Shops. You can also get these at Academy. Zoom makes a good one. I believe Yum also makes some. These are $2 or $3 a pack. These are about $2 or $3 a pack. And these are usually $4 to $5 a pack. So I'm trying to keep it relatively inexpensive for you. But the last thing you're gonna wanna try, maybe wanna try, is a worm that has a little bit of a curly tail on the end. This is, however, where I would use my worm hook versus my EWG hook, okay? So here's where I'd use my worm hook. I would Texas rig it, do the exact same thing, stick it in the top. One thing I told you though, or didn't tell you, is when you stick it in the top of the worm, you're gonna wanna pull the hook out the bottom of the worm, okay? Stick the hook in, pull it out the bottom, push it up, spin it. So you have it to there. Push that worm up a little bit, Same thing, take your hook, pull it in, put it right in there. Now you can not push the hook, the tip all the way out, or you can push it out and then bury it in later. It's up to you on how you want to do that. But there is your worm that you can throw. I did that quick, so you don't want to bend though. You want that to be straight. So if I had a little more time, I would straighten that up a little bit more. But you want that to be straight as possible on your worm. Cinco, ribbon tail or curly tail worm in the 6 to 7 inch variety, or a crawl. Now the way you're gonna tie this on, I'll show you really quick. You're gonna wanna get a bullet weight, and you can use lead or tungsten. Tungsten is a little bit more expensive because it's smaller and more dense metal, which means your weight is smaller. I would recommend a 3/16 ounce weight, 3/16. You could use 1/8, you could use 1/4. 1/8 is gonna be maybe a tad light, 1/16, or 1/4 maybe a tad heavy. So 1/8 or a 3/16 is what you're gonna wanna use. You're gonna take your fishing line, put the weight on first, slide it up, and then tie on your hook like so. So your weight is going to sit on your line. If I can get it to balance, I'll just show you. Your hook is gonna sit on the line just like this. Line is gonna come through this way, slide the weight on, and then tie on your hook. That's how your setup is going to work with your plastics. So quick recap. Spinning reel, size 20 or 2000 is what you're gonna wanna use. 6/8 to 6'10", medium, fast action rod is gonna do you well. Monofilament line, 14 poundish is gonna go very far for you. That monofilament line is gonna float as you're using either a popper or a walking bait on the top of the water. It's also gonna allow you to throw a swim bait in the water as well, and any water column. Now these can sink, and they will sink because they're weighted. You wanna throw, oh, by the way, this is a 1/8 or 1/4. I would say about a 1/8 on a spinning setup is what you're gonna want for a weighted hook. And same thing for underspin. These are weighted too, and about a 1/8 to 3/16 ounce is gonna work really well. These are gonna sink, so you can throw them and reel them, and they'll stay top of the water. You can throw them and count down 1,001, 1,002, 1,003. You can slowly reel them across the bottom. You can moderately reel them across the middle of the water column. You can swim them up, you can swim them down just by tilting your rod tip up. You just vary your cadence, vary your retrieve. You can also, as you're reeling, kind of twitch, and then reel, twitch. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna reel, twitch, reel, twitch, and give that bait some lifelike movement. That's how you're gonna fish those. And then your plastics, your Cinco, your curly tail worm, and your crawl. Let me tell you how to fish these really quick. The Cinco, all you're literally gonna do is you're gonna throw it out there. This is gonna land in the water, and just as it sinks, it's gonna kind of just do this and float down. 9 times out of 10, when a fish bites a Cinco as it's sinking, oh, one more thing. You can add a weight or you can not add a weight to the Cinco. It's up to you, totally up to you. I prefer to throw it weightless. These are heavy enough that you can sling them out there and just let it float gradually with no weight. So I would not throw a weight on this personally. But 9 times out of 10, as it's sinking, that's when the fish are gonna come hit it. So watch your line as it's sinking. If you see your line start to move, set the hook, then reel, and you'll land them on a weightless Cinco. On your curly tail or ribbon tail worm, I would throw the weight on first on your line. This you can fish slowly on the bottom, you can burn it across the top, but the weight is what you need. This is heavier than this, so you need weight on this. You do not necessarily need weight on this. On your crawls, I would also add weight. So you would put your weight on top. This you can crawl across the bottom. Now keep in mind that a crawfish, crawdad, whatever you want to call it, lives on the bottom. So this you're likely going to fish slowly on the bottom of the water, and you're going to pop it and then let it sit, or you can pull slowly across the bottom, okay? So this you're gonna pull slowly across the bottom. This you can swim it or pull it slowly across the bottom. This you're gonna toss and let it slowly float. So those are your 3 baits, those are your presentations. That's your rod, your reel, your line, the equipment you're gonna buy, the tackle you're gonna need, the hooks, the weights, everything all together in one video to get you started in bass fishing. If you have any questions, let me know below in the comments. And one thing I want to tell you as well, I have created a playlist on my channel. They're not my videos. In fact, as I was learning 3 years ago how to bass fish, I saved all these videos in a playlist so that I could one day tell you, go watch these videos. So anything you pretty much want to know about getting started with bass fishing is on my bass fishing how-to playlist on my channel. Go check out that playlist. You'll see many more videos by many more people who know way more about fishing than I do, but I'm just sharing with you a little bit of knowledge to help you get started to get out and go catch some fish. And I want to see them, so tag me, Fishing the Lone Star, fishing_the_Lone Star on Instagram. We'll love to see the fish you're catching. Subscribe, help me grow this channel, like this video, drop me a comment below if you're out catching a fish or if any of this was helpful. Let me know as well if you'd like to know anything else I can share with you to help you get started. And if nobody's told you today, God loves you and so do I. Peace out.